We live our everyday lives in a massive rush. We are constantly running from one thought to another, jumping from one task to another, and we're always trying to multitask. And when we travel, we bring this rush into our travels. So we have packed itineraries, we fill them with a list of things to do, list of places to see, and we want to try and check each and every box. Slow travel is the antidote to this rush. It is this idea that we can consciously change our mindset to be a little bit more present, connect a little bit deeper with the places we are in, and not be in a rush to do everything and see everything. So I think the idea of slow travel first came into my life way back in 2013 when I decided to give up my rented apartment, sell most of my belongings, and live out of two bags. And when I started that journey, I was traveling the way I had been traveling in the past, which is stay in a place for 2 or 3 days and then move to another place because there's so much to see, there's so much to do in this world, right? But doing that for a month got really exhausting really quickly. So when my partner and I decided to go to Goa, we thought instead of staying for 2 or 3 days, why don't we stay for 2 or 3 weeks and see what happens? So I wrote to a bunch of homestays, and luckily, the one that worked out was this lovely family run homestay in the interiors of northern Goa in a small village which was pretty remote. And what really helped, of course, was having more time on our hands and not having any to do lists in this area because it was quite far away from everything else. But it was here in Goa that I got introduced to the idea of susegad living, which is this deep rooted Goan concept that talks about contentment and slowness in the way you live your life. And of course, things in Goa have changed over the years and over generations. But even now, when you talk to older Goan people, you can learn about how their approach to life is really rooted in being content with what they have and not, living their lives in a great rush. And I think this introduction to what a Susegad life could look like, it really influenced the way I decided to show up both in my life and in my travels. And when I applied this to my travels, it transformed everything. So, what I want to do in today's video is share a bunch of tips that have helped me embrace the slow travel mindset and really accept that I can't be everywhere and I can't do everything. So, whatever I can do, I will do it deeply. So, tip number one, change your FOMO to JOMO. That is the fear of missing out, change it to the joy of missing out. So, coming back to the Goa example, whether we have 2 weeks or 2 days, it's so easy to pack it up with things to do. Spend 3 days in North Goa, 3 days in South Goa, 3 days in Panjim, and you're constantly rushing from one corner of the state to another. And when we operate with this fear of missing out, there is a constant sense of anxiety or unease that tells us, let's quickly get done with this experience so we can go experience that next thing, right? And when we have this fear, we can't really be fully present with the experience that we're having, or with the conversation we are having, or even just with the food that we are trying for the first time. And changing this mindset to JOMO, which says, I have joy in missing out because I might not be doing those 5 or 10 things that are also out there. But this one thing that I'm doing, it's really allowing me to be here right now, but it's also allowing me to learn something. It's changing something within me. It's painting this beautiful memory that I can hold on to later, or it's even allowing me to, take photos or videos with a lot more meaning and depth. And I think I can tell you that this is not always easy to do. I think even now, when I travel to a new place, there is always this sense that, I don't know if I'll ever come back here again. So, shouldn't I try to do all the main things that are there to do? Shouldn't I go and try all the exciting restaurants that are there to try? But I have to constantly tell myself, JOMO, JOMO, JOMO. There is joy in missing out until that actually becomes true for me. Tip number two, acceptance. So, this is tied very closely with the idea of JOMO, which is accepting that in this lifetime, I cannot go everywhere and I cannot do everything. I think even within a single place, a single village, a single town, a single country, I cannot experience everything, because things depend on seasons, they depend on what's available at the time, they depend on my knowledge at the time. So just accepting that I don't have the time for everything, but the things that I do have the time for, I can be more immersed in them and really let them shape who I am. The experience that comes to mind right now about acceptance is this scene from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, where Ranbir and Deepika are, they're going all over Udaipur with this checklist that Ranbir has. And finally, they land up at this parapet where they're watching a beautiful sunset. And Ranbir is urging them to go because, there's a whole list of things to do. And then Deepika tells him, wherever you are in life, something is going to get missed out. So let's just enjoy where we are. And I think that exactly is the essence of acceptance and allowing ourselves to slow down. So, tip number three, seek to grow. I think we are living in an age where we are just traveling for the sake of traveling. We are traveling because it sounds cool, it gives us social media validation, it shows our friends and peers that we are evolved beings who like to travel and experience the world. But I think we need to probe a little bit deeper about why it is that we really love to travel and why it is that we are going to a certain place. And I think when we start doing this, we start viewing travel, not just as a backdrop for our photos, but actually an opportunity and a privilege to learn about things around the world. So this is a chance for us to challenge our worldviews, to build connections with people around the world, to really learn about our own prejudices, of which there are many, to maybe learn a different language, experience a different culture, try different kinds of food, but to do this in a way that we are really doing it for our personal growth rather than for some kind of external validation. And I think when we change this mindset, this fear of missing out and this FOMO, it really starts to grow to go away, and we end up shaping our travels in a way that we can spend more time in one place learning about the things that really excite us and maybe have the power to transform us, as opposed to doing something that everyone else is doing because it's part of some checklist. Okay, tip number four, think of travel as a two-way cultural exchange rather than a one-way process. So I think a lot of times when we think about traveling somewhere, we're always asking, what are we going to receive from this experience? But I think just asking, what are we going to give back because of this experience can completely transform the way we see the world. So, just to give you an example, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Ecuador in Latin America. I was staying with the local Quechua community in their small village in the remote countryside. I was going to stay there for a week, so we had some time to connect with each other. And it was a beautiful family. They would take their goats and sheep for grazing every day. So sometimes I would go with the daughter for that. We would have some of our meals together, and a lot of it was forage stuff, herbs that grow wild that they make into tea and so on. And so we did have like a fair level of bonding. And then one day I was talking to the mother, and I mentioned that there is a bird rescue sanctuary nearby where they rescue birds of prey, like big birds like vultures, eagles, a lot of the birds that are native and endemic to this area. This is a sanctuary that rescues them from adverse conditions like hunting, injury, uh, people keeping them as pets. So these are birds that have gone through a lot of trauma in their lives, and so it's like a rehabilitation center for them. And so I was planning to go there, and it was about a 1 hour drive away from where I was staying. And when I mentioned this to the mother, her eyes really lit up. And she said that when she was a little girl, it was her dream to visit this sanctuary. But somehow she's never had the opportunity to go there in her whole life, even though she lives so nearby. And she genuinely wished me a good time and told me that when I come back, I should show her all the pictures and tell her what the experience was really like. So I had this idea. There was another couple who was staying in the homestay at the time. So I mentioned to them about this conversation. And I said, why don't we together invite the entire family to go and visit this sanctuary with us? It could be a beautiful experience for us, but also a chance for them to see, their own neighborhood. And it has been the mother's dream to go there. And they really came on board with the idea, which meant that we could split expenses between the two of us. And so we invited the entire family to come with us. And they were very excited to do this. It was their day out, which was going to be a lot of fun. And the first thing the father told us was that we shouldn't hire a car because it's going to be too expensive. So instead, we'll stand on the side of the road. We'll walk till we find a ride, and he would make sure that we find a ride. So being a local guy, people around him pretty much know him, and we quickly found a car. So this was a van, and most people sat in the front, but there wasn't space for all of us. So me, one person from the couple, and the father were in the boot. And I think that 1 hour journey of being together in that booth, it really brought us together. and we ended up hearing stories from the father about his life, how he met the mother, and really, like these intimate moments where we were just talking about our life journeys and really feeling like we were great friends rather than just visiting someone because they're hosting us as a traveler. And then when we went to the sanctuary, we all had this joint experience together. And I think by the time we came home, it really felt like we were part of each other's families rather than just strangers who are visiting there for a small amount of time and staying in this homestay, and really having this service provided to us. And I think staying in a homestay itself is that first step. But I think then taking it a step further to say, how can we be a little bit more engaged to build this friendship out, to have a sort of cultural exchange, which we very much did because we were talking about our traditions in our own countries, in our own childhoods, and so on. And really seeing travel as this cultural exchange changes everything, right? I think when we look back on our travels, these are the things that we will remember, not the social validation that we've received. And the last tip number 5, is about thinking about our interconnectedness. So I think a lot of times when we travel, we kind of gloss over the realities of a place. We want to see the pretty sites, the historic sites. We want to visit the touristy places where everything, kind of seems in order, and have quite limited interactions with the with where we are staying because it's a regular hotel where you just have an interaction at check-in and check-out and maybe get some generic recommendations from the concierge. But when we think about our interconnectedness with the world, we sort of put on a different lens of travel itself. And seeing this interconnectedness means going a little bit further, a little bit outside of our comfort zone, a little bit outside of the tourist track, and seeing what's the reality of a place. How do people really live there? Where do they really eat? What kind of food do they really eat? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? And how are environmental realities playing out in the area that they live? And what are the social realities that intersect with them? And when we start to ask these questions, we start noticing how our travels impact the local ecology of a place. How are they drawing from resources that belong to local communities? How is this impacting the living culture of a place? And how do we change the way we travel so that we have a positive impact on all of this? And I think the one example that comes to my mind right now about this interconnectedness is Ladakh. So I remember the first time that I traveled to Ladakh. Of course, I was wowed by its beauty, by how stark the mountains are, snow covered, how beautiful and striking the landscape is. But I think I also began to learn that this is a cold mountain desert, which means that for centuries, locals have lived in this landscape with almost no water. So most of the water, there is no rain because it's a desert. And I know that reality is changing now with climate change, but there has been no rain over centuries. And that means all the water comes from glaciers and snow. And so locals have come up with techniques to save every drop of water so that they can use it for irrigation and they can use it for the very basic, human needs like drinking and cooking. And this is the reason why they have dry composting toilets in their homes and have had them for centuries. But then when we see interconnectedness and we see the environmental and social realities and how tourism is interacting with that, we can notice that, a lot of places, including Ladakhi homestays, are now offering flushing toilets, they're offering running showers because this is what travelers are demanding. And then it makes you question, where is this water coming from? If this is a cold mountain desert where people have saved, every drop of water over centuries, where is this water coming from? Is it coming from the ground, which it is? Then what is it doing to the water table? Is that water table getting recharged? Are there villages which are being abandoned because now they have no source of water? Is this impacting the living culture, which was very much a communal way of living, which allowed people to share their resources very closely and also monitor them? But now, because tourism has brought in a capitalist model, how is this changing the way people live there? And these are not questions that we need to, go and research and learn about in, like scientific articles. But just having conversations with locals gives you so much perspective on how their living culture and their ecological realities are changing. And a lot of it is happening because of tourism. But I think that is the beauty of slow travel. When you start seeing this interconnectedness, you stop placing yourself at the center of the travel ecosystem and everything is out there to serve you, but you see yourself as part of the ecosystem, which is there to serve each other and to be served as well. And when you become a part of the ecosystem rather than see yourself at the center of it, your mindset, your approach to travel, and your impact on the places and people you visit completely changes. And I think slow travel allows for the space to process this, to see this, and to find joy in this.